This is Osho. He was one of the most influential spiritual gurus of the late 20th century, attracting millions of followers worldwide with his unique brand of spirituality that blended Eastern mysticism with Western psychology. But who was Osho? What did he teach, and why does he still matter today? Join me as we explore the life and legacy of this controversial figure who continues to inspire both fascination and debate over 4 decades. After his death, let's start with some basic information. Who was Osho? Osho was many things to many people. To his followers, he was a spiritual master and enlightened being who taught them how to find inner peace and happiness in a chaotic world. To his critics, he was a dangerous cult leader who brainwashed his disciples into unquestioning obedience and committed shady business practices. To historians, he was a fascinating figure who embodied many of the trends of late 20th century spirituality, such as the blurring of boundaries between East and West, the rise of new religious movements, and the search for alternative ways of knowing and being in the world. To really understand Osho, though, we need to look at his life story and see how he became who he was. So let's do that. Now, before I dive into the juicy stuff, I just want to say that there are many different perspectives on Osho's life and teachings, and I will try to present them in a balanced way. However, I must also admit that my own perspective is informed by my background as a historian, and that I am mainly interested in Osho as a historical figure rather than as a spiritual guru. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's get started. So, where did Osho come from? Well, Osho was born into a middle-class Hindu family in Cookbahar, India in 1931. His father was a wealthy landowner and his mother was a traditional housewife. From an early age, Osho showed signs of being different from other kids. He was sensitive, intuitive, and had a strong interest in philosophy and religion. When he was 13, he left home to study at a monastery, but soon returned to live with his parents. At 17, he enrolled in a university in his hometown to study for a bachelor's degree in philosophy. After graduating, he went on to earn a master's degree in the same subject from another university. All the while, he continued to explore different spiritual paths and eventually settled on Neo-Advaita, a non-dualist school of Vedanta philosophy. This is when he began calling himself Osho, meaning original or ancient. It was also around this time that he met his first wife, Sushila. They had 2 sons together, but the marriage eventually ended in divorce. In 1964, Osho made the decision to leave India and travel to the United States to pursue further studies in philosophy. There he enrolled in a doctoral program at the University of Wisconsin, Madison, but never finished his dissertation. Instead, he began teaching meditation and yoga classes to students and members of the local Hare Krishna movement. These classes were well attended, and soon Osho had a large following among young Westerners who were attracted to his charismatic personality and unorthodox methods. Dynamic meditation, as it came to be known, involved a series of exercises designed to release repressed emotions and energy through cathartic means like shouting, crying, and shaking. It was a far cry from the typical transcendental meditation taught at the time, and it appealed to those seeking a more intense and transformative experience. As Osho gained popularity in the US, he also attracted the attention of the media, who were fascinated by his claims of being an enlightened master and his message of love, peace, and revolution. However, not everyone was so intrigued. Some saw Osho as a charlatan who exploited his followers and used their money to live a luxurious lifestyle. Others saw him as a threat to social order and accused him of being a cult leader. Despite these challenges, Osho continued to grow his movement and soon had thousands of followers in America and Europe. In 1970, he moved to Oregon and founded the Rajneeshpuram community, which became the largest commune of its kind in the Western Hemisphere. It was here that Osho developed many of his core ideas and practices, and where he also encountered his greatest controversies. So what exactly were Osho's core ideas? Well, they were many and varied, but some of the most important ones include his concept of dynamic meditation, which I mentioned earlier. his rejection of organized religion, and his emphasis on individual freedom and responsibility. Osho was not a fan of traditional religions and their institutions. He thought they had become too dogmatic, authoritarian, and exclusive, and that they had lost their original spiritual essence. Instead, he offered a new path to enlightenment that did not require faith, rituals, or dogmas. According to Osho, the only thing that mattered was your inner transformation and realization of your true nature. He also did not believe in any kind of asceticism or renunciation. He believed that life was to be lived fully and that suffering was a necessary part of it. Therefore, his followers were not supposed to deny their emotions, needs, or desires, but rather to accept them and work with them creatively. Another key aspect of Osho's teachings was his concept of freedom. He saw society as repressive and conformist, and he wanted his followers to break free from its norms and expectations. This is why his commune in Oregon was so controversial. It was not just a spiritual community, but also a utopian experiment that aimed to create a new kind of society based on freedom, equality, and creativity. Of course, it did not work out that way. Rajneeshpuram descended into scandal and violence. Osho was forced to leave the US in 1985 and settle in India, where he spent the rest of his life. However, Osho's message of freedom and rebellion did resonate with many young people in the West who were disillusioned with the status quo and searching for alternatives. This is why his movement survived and even thrived after his departure from Oregon. In fact, Osho's teachings and presence continue to be felt today, especially in areas like personal growth, wellness, and spirituality. His books have been translated into dozens of languages, and his audio talks are still listened to by millions. His meditations are still practiced by many people who claim that they help them relax, focus, and heal. And his ideas are still discussed and debated by scholars who try to make sense of his legacy and impact. So what can we say about Osho's lasting influence and legacy? Well, he remains one of the most controversial figures in the history of new religious movements, and his commune in Oregon is still considered to be one of the most bizarre and dramatic examples of utopian failure. However, he also remains one of the most popular and influential teachers of meditation and personal growth, and his ideas have inspired countless people to explore their inner potential and live more authentic lives. Whether you love him or hate him, you have to admit that Osho was a trailblazer who challenged the boundaries of spirituality, religion, and society in the 20th century, and that he left an indelible mark on our times. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed learning about Osho and his teachings, and that you found him as fascinating as I do. If you want to learn more about him, I highly recommend reading his books or watching his videos online. You can also join his meditation groups or attend his events if there are any near you. Or you can simply continue exploring his vast body of work through articles, documentaries, or interviews. Whatever you choose to do, I encourage you to keep an open mind and heart and to be respectful of his views and beliefs, even if you don't agree with them. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best in your spiritual journey. Remember to subscribe for more videos like this and to leave a comment below with your thoughts on Osho. And if you enjoyed my work and would like to support me, you can hit the like button. With that said, I'll see you next time.